Well, the fall semester is here and school starts as soon as tomorrow for kids in the Blue Valley and independent school districts. And some of those kids might be feeling anxious for the new school year. And that's especially true for kids who are entering middle or high school for the first time, new schools. So we have called on Dr. Wes Crenshaw here to talk more about these big transitions for teens and preteens. And Dr. Wes, great to see you once again. Let's start out with what kids are generally feeling when they are considering going to these new environments, these new schools.
Well, it varies from kid to kid, but on average, they're feeling pretty anxious. They have anxiety about, the unknown. Some people like to, when they go traveling, they like to go to a new city every time, and others, like me, like to go back to the same place because we know what we're going to get. And for kids, it's feels much safer to know what's going to happen. And with new schools, you don't get that. You're in the unknown. They also worry about social connections. Nowhere is that more serious than in middle school, because the middle schoolers don't learn as much as they really have just social time. My wife's a 7th grade teacher. I know this. And that sense of disorganization, I think we forget how hard that was in 6th and 7th grade when you walk in and you don't know how the classes are going to change or anything. It's just a totally new environment. So this is kind of scary for them right now.
Which kids have the hardest times?
Well, you've got kind of 3 categories in there. People who don't realize the difference between them, but they're kind of significant. The shy and anxious people may want to have a lot of friends and do a lot of things that they just are scared. And these kids have a harder time with these new environments because that unknown factor, it just multiplies socially with them, and they have a hard time with it. Then you have the introverted kids who just have a preference for that kind of thing. They would prefer to do things on their own. But that doesn't work as well when you have to reach out to make some of those social connections. So they have to stretch their comfort level. And then you have kids who are, maybe good at all those things, want to be extroverted, but they just have not very good social skills. And, you may think all middle schoolers don't have good social skills, but there are some of those little kids who really just don't know how to make a friend very well.
As parents, we want to help. How can we do that?
Well, the first thing from a kind of system perspective is if you can avoid changing attendance zones so the kids matriculate with their grade school friends into middle school or their middle school friends into high school, it really does help. Sometimes that's really hard to accomplish, but it's the core element of how to get this right. And then try to get the logistics right. We forget that locker combination was a lot more difficult when you were in 6th grade than it is for us now. And you want to practice that so that the worst thing people can imagine is that moment when you can't get your locker open. And walk through school with the kids, make sure they know where all their classes are going to be. This rotation of classes is new for them. Meet the teachers if you can. Anything you can do so that first day feels familiar really is pretty helpful.
That answer right there might apply to this next question here. What about the really anxious kids, those ones that have a lot of anxiety when they're there at the new school?
They need a little more special assistance, and I always am careful not to just tell everybody to go to therapy when I'm on here. This is one of those times where a therapist can be helpful in getting kids adjusted to the social issues that are difficult. And you really want to try to figure out, is this a larger issue than just the going to school? Is this going to be something that they're going to have a lot of anxiety whenever new social situations are present? This could be just the harbinger, and you want to know that and try to work on it. And there's this thing I call pushing and holding, and it's true for the therapist, it's true for the parent. With kids that are socially reticent with school, you really have to balance how much you push them and demand of them with how much you hold them and care for them. And people go too far in either direction, and it just makes the situation worse. And that's a lot easier to say here for everybody than it is to do in real life, but that is the goal. Push, hold, balance.
Very good. Dr. Wes, always great to see you. Good information.
Good to be here.
Good luck to everybody out there heading to new schools. If you got questions about this morning's segment or you would like to learn more about Dr. Wes, he has an office in Lawrence. You also can find him online at dr-wes.com. Lauren?